Hello and welcome to the Scottish Football Show. Coming up, SPFL headline, VAR headline, and European headline. Yes, I am your host, Andrew Slaven, who has forgotten to write really interesting, intricate headlines. And equally to blame, joining me on the show is West Ham United senior producer Laura Brannan. Where's your typing fingers at, Laura?
Come on, this is we do this for free. You cut us some slack now and again. It's a budget show.
Absolutely. And if you want to sponsor this podcast, that would be fantastic. But definitely the most professional out of the three of us is editor and filmmaker Findlay Marks. Hello, Finn.
Hi, guys. That is absolutely not true.
Maybe. But look, it's good to be back together again after a pretty exciting weekend of Scottish football. But we should always start the way we do with some funny things that's happened over the weekend. So, Finn, why didn't you kick us off?
Oh, the best thing over the weekend was the thing that went viral on Twitter from the fantastic account Footy Scrans. They'd taken a picture of a pizza that you can buy at Celtic Park, which is £6.70, and it's about the size of a CD. So it was a lot of money for not an awful lot. Too much dough for not enough dough, if you ask me.
Yeah, Domino's pizza, perhaps. Like 4 bits of pepperoni on each slice. It was just, brutal.
It was terrible. 1 bit of pepperoni on each slice. Absolutely tragic. I know we're in a cost of living crisis, but come on.
I'm looking at the picture now. It's the box has Neo Pizza, more like Nay Pizza. I'm a dad. I can say these things. Laura, bring us back down to earth, please.
Yeah, taking you away from all these terrible puns. Breaking news, just as we're recording this, did you see Josh Doig scored for Verona tonight?
I did, Laura, because I sent you the link.
Yeah, I was on top of that, Andrew. I saw it before you. You're a bit slow to the party here.
Oh, throwing it back.
He opened the score, and look, they went on and lost in the end to Udinese, but he opened the score. Cracking goal, by the way. Not the only Scot to be scoring this weekend as well. Ryan Gould's on fire for Vancouver Whitecaps just now. He scored and provided an assist against Austin in the game they won 2-0 at the weekend. So, we're just back from an amazing international break, still flying high from that, obviously. And now we've got the Scottish players that aren't getting picked also doing their bit to just knocking on Steve Clarke's door.
Interesting. No, that's excellent. Interestingly, on Josh Doig, did either of you see his unveiling at Verona when he moved from Hibs to Italy? Did you see that?
I don't think I saw that, no.
It is hilarious. They know how everyone or most clubs like to do a kind of funny video to try and be viral.
Yeah.
And they decided to dress Josh Doig up as James Bond. And it's all about him saying, the name's Doig, Josh Doig. And it's an absolute shocker.
It's really encouraging that Josh Doig is doing bits in Serie A because, there's a bit of a dearth of talented left-backs or full-backs that we've got at international level at the moment.
Yeah, true enough.
See if they brought back the 10 and 6s tomorrow. We could put out a team of just fullbacks and absolutely rinse that competition.
I tend to agree with you, Finn. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Another thing I've seen this week, Ayr United are going ahead and asking their fans how they feel about earlier kickoffs over the winter months. So this is, I don't think they're the only club that will be doing it, but they've started asking the questions. And I think the reason behind this is to help save energy costs. So clubs are being offered the chance to have earlier kickoffs to save money on floodlights and such like over the darker periods. And it also means that in turn, they are going to be allowed to also stream some games for pay-per-view channels as well, because they obviously won't be Saturday 3:00 games. The earlier kickoff will in turn allow some fans to see more of their games. So saving money and getting the eyes on the game. What have they really got to lose from it?
That's really interesting. I think that's a really, really good idea.
I think it's a fantastic idea, especially with the pay-per-view element, because the Premiership won't be on for, a month over the World Cup in December, but the Championship and the leagues below it will be on. So I think that's a great idea. If there's an option for people that wouldn't ordinarily be watching those kind of games to have an option to view them, I think that's a great idea. It just widens the audience.
Do Rangers fancy another? Ryan Kent! Now that is a fantastic finish, and something the Rangers fans would love to see a bit more of. His first Premiership goal of 2022, and it is number 4 for Gio and for Rangers.
Right, well, a pretty interesting Scottish Premiership that we saw at the weekend. All games kicking off on Saturday. I suppose we start with the early kick-off that was Hearts Rangers, and a 4-0 comfortable victory for Rangers. Involved in the middle of all that, a Cammy Devlin red card, which was unbelievable. Like, what was he thinking? But I suppose the headline grab is Antonio Čolak, 8 goals in 8 games, and something which hasn't happened for a Rangers player since Michael Moles in 1999.
Wow. Yeah, it's been a pretty impressive start for Čolak. I think he was very much signed as a kind of backup striker or a backup striking option. Cedric Itten left in the summer, who was well down the pecking order. And Rangers pretty much just used the exact same amount of money they got back for Itten to bring Čolak in. He started the season as the main striker because Kemar Roof's still not up to speed, and Morelos is coming back slowly but surely from a long-term injury. So there wasn't really an option to do anything but he's looked impressive. 8 goals in 8 games, and I think that's only with an XG of something like 6.8 or something. He seems to be pretty clinical. I mean, both of his goals I thought were excellent. Yeah. Can we just talk as well briefly about how good it is having Ali McCoist summarising on a game like that? The man just loves football, and the way that he was, gleefully talking about the way that Čolak finished both those goals was just wonderful, especially the build-up to the second goal. I think he made a reference to that straight out the 1 o'clock gun, referring to the pass from John Lundstrom across the pitch to Rabbi Matondo, which was a lovely little way with words. But yeah, I'd just going to the red card. I mean, there can't be any doubt about it. It was pretty shocking.
No. Yeah, I mean, even Giovan Boncas apparently spoke to Cammy afterwards, or actually as he was walking off the pitch, just saying like you don't need to be putting tackles in like that.
Yeah.
It's just a total moment of madness. It may affect him in the short term, but Cammy Devlin's a good player for Hearts, and I think he'll recognise that was something that's not like him. But Robbie Neilson has got a little bit of thinking to do, because even with, well, we will talk about Hearts against Fiorentina later on in the show, but a few headaches for Neilson with his squad. But moving on to obviously the response that Celtic fans would have wanted to have seen after losing to St Mirren. They did beat Motherwell 2-1, but it wasn't all plain sailing, despite Furuhashi giving the Hoops a lead. An absolute howler from Juranovic and Joe Hart. Both players kind of mixing up, and it seems to be a lack of communication, Laura. But Hatate with an absolute belter as well.
Yeah, just briefly from a Motherwell perspective, turning it around here, this is the 3rd game now where Motherwell have had so many chances. And you wouldn't normally say that when you play against Celtic, but when you add the 3 games together, they've had about 50-odd chances, and they haven't won any of their last 3 games. It's a really unfortunate time for Stephen Hamill, but in a really weird, twisted way, when you look at the performances they've been putting in, you can take a lot of heart from that. So I don't. The fans aren't going to be too downbeat after this game. You can see the progress he's making and the heart that is in the team right now, and so positive from him as well. To go to Celtic Park, put in that performance. They got, it was a lucky goal, but you need to take these moments and capitalise on them. And then towards the end, with Callum McGregor getting sent off, so he got sent off for this essentially last man challenge. It was straight red, and it shook Celtic. They were rattled going into stoppage time. But the problem was, when Motherwell do this against teams like Celtic and Rangers, it happens too late in the game. And obviously there was only 5 minutes left after that. It wasn't enough time for them to really take advantage of it and get something out of the game. But they will have left Celtic Park with their heads held high after this. Much higher than Joe Hart after that ridiculous, what shall we say, dramatics. When he was rolling about after apparently being touched. I didn't even see the contact there, but that was a wee bit dramatic from him, was it not?
That was some classic dark arts involved.
Delayed dark arts as well.
Very strange behaviour from Mr. Joe Hart. But going back to Motherwell, a Motherwell player hasn't scored a goal since the end of August.
Wow.
So they've went a whole month without seeing a goal score. It's just not... You might be able to put a positive spin on it, Laura, and performances might be good, but you've got to turn them into results eventually. But another interesting moment in this game was when Rio Hatate, bit of a loose pass, and Callum McGregor with I suppose it's another bit of dark arts involved in the game, but taking the fall for Hatate's mistake and bringing down, was it Ross Tierney? And Ange Postecoglou kind of saying that there was a man covering. You buy that?
No, because of how far the keeper was. Considering how far off his line he was, he made it the last man challenge. It was irrelevant where Stephen Welsh was. He wasn't getting involved in that at all.
I think there's also an element of intent as well. It's like it's a professional foul. Callum McGregor knew exactly what he was doing, but there's zero attempt to try and play the ball. So I think that's what kind of cements the red card. It's the right call, but it's like you're saying, it is the dark arts. Like it's like you want to do something to protect the win, and obviously in the end it's been worth it.
Absolutely,
because Celtic got the 3 points.
Yeah, and the resulting free kick as well hit what, like the car park, I think. So it did pay off in the end. Look, you in hindsight we'll have to review that once Celtic play without Callum McGregor in the next game. But for the result on the day, it went in their favour, and it was the right thing to do.
Absolutely the right thing to do. Someone who's not doing the right thing at the moment are Dundee United. Really, really having a tough time at the moment. Liam Fox is taking the reins there, but St Johnstone with another unbeaten game and a win. And it looks like, is Stevie May back?
I was going to say, because honestly, I don't know if it's something like Stevie May has got a new gym routine or something, or if it's just the Dundee United defence are that bad. But the first goal here, like for you to look like outdone for pace by Stevie May is not a great look, but it was literally just like one ball over the top. It's a brilliant first touch from May to set himself up, and the really cool finish, and also because he assisted with the second goal as well. But he was outstanding in this game.
He was outstanding. I mean, I know he's equalled the tally of goals that he scored last season. That is only 3 goals. But at the same time, 8 games into the new season and he's got that many, he could potentially get better. And a team where St Johnstone are looking to try and climb up the table a little bit quicker than they did last season. But it's 4 home defeats in a row now for Dundee United. I mean, where is the spark? It was an insipid defensive performance from them. Even though the scoreline didn't suggest it, the goals against, I mean, I just wonder where they are going to turn things around. That's
the thing. So it's 8 games now without a win, and they look gutless. They look like there's no enthusiasm, and you shouldn't look like that for your manager's first game in charge. There should be a spring in your step, and you're out to impress. But I don't know, it's just like there's an argument there that changing the managers will make no difference and it's down to the team itself. I don't know, this manager's come in, obviously no experience. There's 2 very varying arguments on that side, but when it comes to the performance itself, they look far too easy to play against right now. They're not good in possession. They're terrible in defence. They seem to be kind of top heavy on midfielders that aren't really tracking back to defend and aren't really creating anything going forward. And to the extent we're what, like 1 round through into the season now, and the fans are talking about relegation.
It's mad, right?
And a team of Dundee United's size shouldn't be talking about that this early in the season.
Well, you go back 8 weeks ago, and we were looking at Dundee United being a really interesting and exciting prospect. A manager who was maybe sacked too early at Hibs and Jack Ross, and bringing in the likes of Stephen Fletcher and beating AZ Alkmaar in the playoffs of the Europa League conference. It's such a dramatic turnaround that it clearly is affecting the players, and it's worrying times for Dundee United fans. Speaking of fans who are enjoying their football was certainly Aberdeen. I mean, they're probably one of the entertainers for this season. An emphatic win against Kilmarnock. Their old manager, Derek McInnes, who's in charge of Kilmarnock, of course, who I saw when he had the reins at Aberdeen, 30 games against Kilmarnock, and he only lost once against them. So not a happy return for him. But Bojan Miovski seems to be still doing the business, Finn.
He does, yeah. He's been steadily, just firing the goals in. I think he's got a couple of penalties in there now, although it wasn't a particularly convincing one, I thought,
no.
for the second one. Yeah, it's at the start of the season I was kind of expectant of Aberdeen. I mean, I just didn't think they could have much of a worse season than they did last year. And there's been some games where they've not been at it, but the games where they are at it, they have been clinical. They've scored a number of goals. Yeah, I think I can see them comfortably being at least fourth, if not pushing Hearts for third spot this season. I don't think it really helped that I think we've mentioned it already a few times this season, but the Kilmarnock goalkeeper, I don't know what that lad's doing half the time. Like, he's like a FIFA regen gone wrong. He just comes out and does the most bizarre things. Most of the goals, I can't remember which one. It was Aberdeen's third goal, is the one where there are players already marking an Aberdeen player at an acute angle of the box, and he thinks it's the right thing to do to come racing out off his line to try and confront him. The ball's immediately played past him, and it's essentially then just an open goal once the player gets it under control. I think he's really not inspired me with much confidence at all. So I would think that's a bit of a worrying thing for Kilmarnock.
Fair play. I mean, you can say that sort of thing about Zachary Hemming when you live in Australia, Finn. So yeah, he won't get to you anytime soon. I suppose the only positive for Kilmarnock, Laura, is that 4 of their last 5 games have been away from home. So their next 2 are at home. And it's imperative that they get something out of those because, I mean, if you look at who they are about to play, St Johnstone and then Hearts, what can you expect?
Yeah, these will be 2 crunch games for them and winnable games as well. They will be able to go into these ones. Okay, Hearts will be very tough for them, but it's not beyond the realms of possibility to go there and get a result, as you're saying, it's at home. Like the last couple of games, if you take this one out of the equation, they were narrow defeats. They were away from home and they lost 1-0 in both games, to Livy and to Hibs. So it's not all doom and gloom. Like they're getting off to a rocky start. They're finding their feet back in the league again. As I would say to Dundee United fans, it's far too early to be panicking. Yes, they're down at the bottom of the table with United, but it's very, very early days.
Super early. Who's super? Who is super? Ryan Porteous, he's super. Got his opening goal for Hibs against Ross County. He's had an insane week with Scotland. It's been pretty good for him, hasn't it, Finn?
Yeah, can't think of a better week that you can have than making your international debut and then scoring the opening goal at the weekend. Thought Hibs are pretty good value for it. Ross County didn't seem up to much. I think they've only got 4 goals in their last 8 games, so yeah, attack's a bit of a problem area for them. Mm-hmm. Hibs up to 4th as well. They seem to be getting a bit of a head of steam going after a kind of inauspicious start to the season. But yeah, it looks like they're really starting to go. And Porteous just looked galvanised by his midweek performance. Mm-hmm. It was a good finish, actually. I thought really good finish. I had suspicion of handball in the build-up, but can't take that away from the boy.
He was fortunate to get into the position that he ended up in. But I should say that, yeah, Hibs were dominant in this game. I think it was 24 attempts in goal in this one. Lee Johnson seems to be one of those interesting managers I think we're going to enjoy for the whole season. But a word for Ross County, I think they're going to be one of those teams that will maybe not go on a big run, but they're going to be one of those teams that just pick away points and could even upset the bigger teams in the division. So I'm still hopeful they'll be all right. But St Mirren, they are a team on fire at the moment. It's unreal. I think it's 5 wins in the last 6 games, and they're up to 3rd. Laura, your old pals, Robbo, he's just having a great time of it.
Super Robbo, he's on fire, isn't he? This is a big one as well, because not only did they dig out the 3 points right at the death, They did it with 10 men as well. And it puts them up to third in the table now. So that's 5 wins from the last 6. What a run they're on just now. And what an end to this game, by the way. If you missed this game. So what happened was, so nothing for the first 69 minutes. And then, so Mirren opened the scoring, 1-0 in 69 minutes. And then a youngest sent off, force Mirren on 77 minutes and give Livy a penalty. But Sean Kelly misses it. Then Livy go on to equalise about 9 minutes later. So 1 each. We're going into stoppage time. And that's when Alex Greaves scores the winning goal. It's just all this drama. Absolutely fantastic. When you're down 10 men, brilliant. It's what, okay, so it didn't exactly span over 90 minutes, but what a great 21 minutes. I'm taking that.
Yeah, not too bad. It was Keanu Bacchus with the opening goal, and then Bruce Anderson, then Alex Greaves. Alex Greaves, who was playing for New Zealand against Australia in the last 2 games. So he was nearer youth and then travelling all this way in a short couple of days and having to play and scoring a goal.
Yeah.
He's had a decent little...
There were quite a few players actually that made the trip over from Scotland, and joining up with a well-kent face as well, and Jason Cummings, who was playing in those games as well. He scored in the second of the 2 games. It's his first goal for Australia, so I think he's got an outside hope of getting to the World Cup. But
controversial.
are you talking about trade-offs between Scots playing for Australia and Aussies playing for Scotland? I think we got the better deal with Lyndon Dykes.
He's a Scot. You leave him alone.
You said controversial, Laura. Just explain what you mean by that for Jason Cummings.
Oh well, come on. He's played for Scotland already, and he's went and let's not be about the bush here. He's changed his allegiance. He's not Australian, but he's now winning the caps for Australia. So as Finn's saying, if he doesn't want to play for us, okay, fair play to the lad. Bye-bye. But we've got Lyndon Dykes. We've got Lyndon Dykes who does want to play for us, and we are very happy with that. And we don't want to do the swap, thank you.
No swap. Yeah, special dispensation can happen. Looking further down the divisions, Partick Thistle, still top of the table. A 5-1 thrashing of Morton. It's the first time since March 2013 where they've had at least 5 goal scorers for Partick Thistle. And one of them was actually Aaron Muirhead, who I used to go to school with. Nice to see him on the goal scorer. He was a couple of years younger than me. Queen's Park as well, keeping up pace, or trying to. 5 wins out of 6 for them, up to second. And they could go top if they beat Morton as well on Tuesday. So it's all go in the Championship. In League One, Dunfermline played at a 2-2 draw against Peterhead, but 87th and 94th minute comeback for Peterhead in a top versus bottom clash. Really interesting. And I'm hoping to go to the Queen of the South Peterhead game in a few weeks. So I don't like to see Peterhead having last minute comebacks. They'll no doubt score a last minute winner against us lot. And then in League Two, there was an absolute belter between Elgin and Annan. 5-1 that ended for Elgin. And 33 goals now scored in 8 league games for them. Unreal. And finally, we pick up on East Fife losing to Stirling Albion 2-1. And that's 3 wins in a row. They're now unbeaten in 4 games for Stirling. So loads of interesting things going on around the divisions. But I just wonder what could tarnish all of that great discussion we've had, guys. Because I suppose I have to dampen things and say VAR will be coming to Scottish football potentially sooner than we expected. Supposed to be after the World Cup. Might be sooner.
Bloody hell.
When the SPFL announced VAR would be coming to Scottish football, it fairly divided a lot of opinion. But in an ever-evolving game, it feels right that Scotland keep up with elite standards of the sport. But in true SPFL fashion, we obviously learned that it wouldn't be introduced until halfway through the season. Typical madness. Anyway, we heard on Monday that implementation may actually happen sooner rather than later. And I'm so happy to say that we're actually joined by a former referee, Des Roache from the Get Involved Referee podcast. And Des, first of all, great podcast. And I'm delighted that you're just going to be able to explain what the hell is going to happen over the next few months.
No, very welcome to be invited. Thank you ever so much. I don't say I can give you the verbatim of what's going to happen. I think it's going to be a revolving door, I think, for the next couple of months. But we've got to be up in line with the rest of the world. I've said it often enough. I don't think it should be coming in mid-season because it's entirely two different games that you're going with. But hey, we move with technology, and if it's here, we've got to use it.
Absolutely. I think it's one of these things where we know they said it was a secret, but this has been something that the SPFL have been training referees on for a little while now. But do you know when that started?
I believe it was a number of months ago now. And let's be honest, I think we would all be very naive to think that if they're going to be introducing something after the World Cup, that they haven't at least been using it. Now, I know they've been using it under 18 games, under 14 games, etc. But what's the secret? Let people know, listen, we're working on it. We're trying our best. We're trying to educate our referees, educate our assistant referees on how to use this new technology. So I don't understand. I actually think they'd get more credit if they come out and say, look, we're working on it. We're trying it. We're testing it. We're putting guys through the situations. Now, from my understanding, each of the participants who are going to be involved in this technology has to do a requisite number of hours before they are, I don't know, signed off, so to say. But I think they would get a lot of credit if they said, look, this is what's happening. This is what we're doing. We've got to follow FIFA and UEFA protocol. And if it's coming in, it would just enhance the credibility before it actually goes live.
Des, we obviously don't have the same experience as you in terms of reference. So just to kind of give us a bit of context, what goes on like in your ear? What do you hear during a game, and how do you think this will add to or change what refs are doing just now?
Sometimes you hear a lot of nonsense coming down your ears from other people. I don't think it will make that much of a difference. There is constant communication now. The fact that the referees are mic'd up, you're speaking to your assistant referees, you're speaking to your fourth official, you're asking questions of them as well at the same time. What I think this will provide, and I did think about it as an extra level of scrutiny. I don't think that now. I actually think it's an extra level of safeguarding that you're going to get the right decision. Now, not every decision will go to VAR. It has to be a clear and obvious situation where something has went wrong. So I really don't think it'll have that much. There'll be a moment where it'll flag up for them saying, look, we want to look at this incident. Fine, not a problem, as long as that incident is dealt with relatively quickly. But the amount of communication that will go through to the referee, through their earpiece, it won't really be that much more than what they currently receive. I mean, how many times is VAR called into question during each game? 2, 3, 4, maybe? The referee's hearing a lot of communication going through his ear every single minute of that entire game. So it's really just a case of carrying on as you are, and if there is an incident, well, great, go and let me know the right decision.
Do you have any insight into how it's actually going to be resourced? Is it going to be another Category 1 referee that will be the VAR referee? Will they be Scottish, or will they be brought in from outside? Do you know how that's all going to work?
Well, as far as I'm aware, that it's all going to be current Scottish FA officials who are doing it, whether that be a current Category 1 or a current specialist assistant referee, who are doing the calls. And I would pretty much be dismayed if they brought anyone else in from out with, because we've got to be promoting our own guys. We've got to be making sure that these guys are up to a level that they can also use the technology, but they can show and flourish how good our guys are. And also, by us introducing VAR to Scottish football, it will now open our FIFA referees to a higher echelon of game, because also at this present time they're restricted because we don't use it in our own domestic country.
Just kind of one follow-on question to that, where you're talking about the level of refereeing and developing and investing in our own referees in Scotland, because one of the big things that has been suggested is a bit of an issue with VAR coming in at this stage is the fact that we don't actually have professional, full-time referees. Is that something that you think should be a long-term goal for referees in Scotland, that we should be getting to a point where we do invest enough in the officials of our game that they become professional as well?
I think that's a halcyon dream that we would have that. Currently, in only my own personal opinion, I don't think that full-time refereeing in Scotland would make us any better. I think there's a couple of referees in Scotland who have reduced their working hours and their working arrangements to allow them to dedicate more time to refereeing. I'm thinking off the top of my head of Craig Thompson and Bobby Madden, etc., or Willie Collum. Just because you get more time to dedicate to it, does that mean that you can be fitter? Does it mean that you're going to get the correct decision? Because at the end of the day, that's the only thing that counts, is that you're getting the correct decision. I don't think that Scottish football, when you look at the current case of the new sponsorship deal that's coming in from television, etc., some clubs aren't happy with it. How much money are you going to have to pay a referee to give up his profession, give up his job for a number of years? Now, a lot of the referees are highly educated and highly qualified. There's lawyers, there's school teachers, etc. That's a lot to give up to become a professional. Personally, if it was me, I wouldn't give up my own career to become a professional referee. I would maybe look at altering the hours that I worked, or if I could, to help me prepare better. But I don't think the ultimate decision of being a professional referee is going to raise the standard to a level that's better than we currently have.
Bringing it back to VAR, Des, I just want to kind of get an idea of, if, say for instance, if there's going to be a referee review area now when they go up to the screen, do you think referees would be worried about going up to a referee review area in Scotland?
I've said it on our podcast. I think that should be the bit that's sponsored. This could pay for the whole thing. Could you imagine the first incident that happens for a Celtic Rangers game? Whatever happens, as soon as that referee gets called across to go and review a decision, there is going to be absolute bedlam about it. Is it maybe one of those ones that I don't think I'm actually that comfortable watching it in England? And you see them actually standing at the side of the park in both technical areas, watching the referee and trying to get in. Yeah, I think the TV should almost be sort of like halfway up the tunnel. You can go and watch it on your own quickly. You're only going another 10 metres up the away from the side of the park, and you can make your decision. But as soon as that call comes in, I think I've only seen one or two decisions not overturned. One or two decisions, referee saying, "No, I'm quite happy with it. I'm not accepting the VAR opinion," which shows a strength of character. And we've got to hope that our referees have got a strength of character, that they can say, "No, I'm not accepting it," and conversely saying, "Do you know what? You're absolutely right. I got that one wrong," which is allowed.
There was a great scenario in the Serie A about 2 weeks ago. I don't know if you saw it. The Juventus game where they scored it was like a 96th minute winner. So Juventus go and celebrate after being 2-0 down. They go to win 3-2. The referee subsequently sends the player off for celebrating amongst the fans. It was a second yellow card. He then goes to the referee review area, as VAR has instructed him to go and look at the incident. The goal is then ruled for offside. A melee happens. 2 other players get sent off. And then the manager gets sent off. And then after all of that, about an hour after the game is finished, footage is released which shows that VAR was in fact wrong from the other angle. It wasn't offside at all. Could you imagine that in Scottish football?
Listen, we get a government inquiry for 2 managers having a wee bit of a dispute after a match. But when you seen that one, because like I actually thought VAR was a hindrance at that incident, because if it's taken so long for them to make an issue, they've actually hung the referee out to dry. The referee's got nowhere to go, and I felt so sorry for the referee. That should have been done and dusted, right? Goal, no goal, whatever they decide. But then when you see the extended camera view, there was a boy just over at the corner flag, a defending player who was playing them on. It was actually a guy I work with who actually showed me the next day and said, no, they actually got it wrong again. Yeah. So it's not going to solve the world. I think in Scotland, I think it's going to be teething problems, and I think that Celtic and Rangers, being the teams who attack more often at this moment in time, they may feel the wrath of it slightly.
Regrets? No, it's good laugh on it. So
I didn't find it funny.
Right, it's another huge week in Europe for Rangers, Celtic and Hearts. Rangers kicking things off on Tuesday night with a massive game at Anfield against Liverpool. A typical, as you would say, Battle of Britain clash, Finn, but one that I suppose everyone's looking forward to watching.
Absolutely. I mean, these games are always really good fun. It's just I think there is a bit of added spice when it's British teams that are playing together, and this is the highest possible level. So I think it'll be really interesting because I don't think either team's coming into this in great form. You know, both sets of supporters kind of moaning over the same stuff, which is kind of interesting, you know, about squads that haven't been refreshed enough and that they're looking tired and everybody's figured them out and all of this kind of thing. So yeah, I would fancy Liverpool, but you never know. Stranger things have happened.
I don't know, man. I can't give Rangers a sniff here. It will definitely be a great spectacle, particularly in the build-up. But, you know, when it comes down to just quality on the pitch, I think Liverpool will have far too much for Rangers, even if Rangers did have an emphatic victory at the weekend. But noticeable absentees will be James Sands, who's obviously suspended after his red card against Napoli. Kemar Roofe, you know, it's up in the air, really. I think he's close to coming back, but whether he'll be available for this one, I don't know. And interestingly, on Monday, we learned that Tom Lawrence's injury, he's actually had another injury. And it looks like he's going to be out for Rangers until after the World Cup. Gio Van Bronckhorst said it's not going to be weeks, it's going to be months. So really disappointing news for him and for Rangers fans, I suppose.
It's a really big blow because I think of the summer signings, he was the one that had impressed me most with the way that he was able to be that link between what is usually a very deep lying midfield and the front line. Scott Arfield's kind of been deputising there, but you can see that his legs aren't quite there and he can't do it game in, game out, whereas I think Lawrence was doing it and his energy was tenacious even when Rangers weren't playing particularly well as a team. I think especially for a game of this stature and magnitude and style, kind of British style game against Liverpool, it'll be a huge miss. But I don't think it'll take away from the spectacle of it. I still think Rangers hopefully will give a good account of themselves, better than they've done in the opening two games. But it'll be an amazing spectacle. But one question I was going to ask you, Andrew, because you're working on this game, right? So what is it actually like working on this level of fixture as a producer?
Oh, it's super exciting, man. I think the plan is on the Tuesday night and for the return game at Ibrox, it'll be like an hour and a half build up.
Wow. Normally
you would maybe give about 45 minutes for a British club, then an hour as you progress into the last 16, and it gets bigger. But this is like a huge match for BT Sport. It'll be there'll be loads and loads of really cool, interesting VTs. I mean, I've even seen the opener already, and it's just it will definitely play into all the heartstrings of, you know, two cities, big clash of cultures, and really playing into the, you know, how both teams were born and bred out of, you know, the ashes of the coal fire and just industry and all that stuff. It's just great, man. Working on these events are absolutely brilliant, and most of the time I spend in either a truck conducting most of the Pres VTs. So for Liverpool Rangers, I won't actually be at that game. This week I'll be doing Frankfurt against Spurs on Tuesday night. Then I'll be doing the goal show on Wednesday. But the following week I'll be up at Celtic Park on the Tuesday night. Then I'll be at Ibrox on the Wednesday for the Rangers Liverpool game. And these are the things that I'm lucky enough to be involved in them. But yeah, sometimes you're just in a truck. Not really, you know, it's better to be there as a punter, but it's still pretty special when you're surrounded by so many people who are working but trying to create something unique for the viewer. It's pretty special, man. It's another massive match as well for Celtic on Wednesday, who travel to Germany where they face RB Leipzig, two teams that probably desperately need results themselves. Leipzig, who are languishing like 11th in the Bundesliga, only won a handful of games really domestically. Celtic, who are always dominant at home, but away from home, this is going to be ever more difficult for Celtic, but one that they desperately need 3 points from, Rob, probably.
Yeah, the table as it stands just now, just to bring up to speed, is Celtic sitting third in their group on 1 point. Now Real Madrid obviously lead it with 6, and Shakhtar Donetsk on 4, and Leipzig are sitting just below them on no points. So this is, they've had 1 point from 2 games so far. Defeat would likely end their hopes of progression, I would say, at the halfway point. A draw would keep them in it though. Look, you've got 2 home games coming up after this and a very tough game away to Real Madrid. Going like the way Celtic are shaping up for this one, you could be hypercritical of them in terms of domestically and saying in their games they've had hints of wastefulness in front of goal. They do need to be more clinical. But as I say, it's no one's panicking at this stage. It's not been the best start in Europe, but still alive. Still got hope there. I think they said that Starfelt is out injured. He's going to miss the game, but there's a chance that Cameron Carter-Vickers could come back. He's missed the last 2 games through injury, and to be honest, I think he's been missed. I think it's been a noticeable hole in that sense. So if he makes that comeback, then even better for Celtic.
Yeah, it's not been a great start in terms of results, but you can certainly say out of the last 2 matches, Celtic's performance levels have been huge. They should have beat Shakhtar in that last game. Real disappointing result, I suppose, even albeit ending in a draw away from home. But Thursday night, probably the second biggest pick, I would say, of the week. I think this is far more interesting than the Leipzig Celtic game, purely because it's Hearts in Europe and against a Serie A team in Fiorentina they've only won 3 of their 12 competitive matches so far this season. Hearts beating Fiorentina at home would go down as probably one of the greatest results in Europe they've ever had. Would you not agree?
Yeah, it would be pretty sizable. They'll have to go some, because I know Fiorentina's form's not been great yet. Like you're saying, they've only won 3 competitive matches so far this season, but I mean, they've struggled for goals at times, despite the options that they've got up front. The most well-known of those being the former Real Madrid striker Luka Jovic, but they've also got Jonathan Okone, who was at Lille for quite a while, and Brazilian striker Arthur Cabral, who had a very impressive record at Basel in Switzerland, but neither of them have translated their form with their other clubs to goals for Fiorentina yet. So. And they've struggled so far in the group. You know, they lost 3-0 in Turkey to Başakşehir and drew at home 1-1 with RFS. So yeah, they've not been going great in this group so far.
I've seen a few Hearts fans over the weekend complaining about the atmosphere at Tynecastle recently, which actually surprises me, because going into these games I was always kind of saying, the Tynecastle atmosphere for European games, surely you can't beat it, like it's going to be amazing. I was quite jealous that West Ham didn't draw Hearts in the Conference League, because I was so desperate to go up to Tynecastle for that game and experience the Tynecastle atmosphere in that sense as the visiting team. But no, I've seen a few fans complaining about it. I can't see how the atmosphere could possibly be bad in this game. I don't know. Would you say, am I right in saying that this is maybe their biggest European game since the Liverpool tie? What year was that now?
Oh, yeah.
That was, 2012?
Oh, God, yeah.
So, I mean, we're talking like 10 years ago now. I'm not talking from a Hearts perspective, but as an outsider, I would say that's probably their biggest game since those 2 matches, because that was a Europa League playoff to get into the group stages. I just think for atmosphere, for occasion, for magnitude, it's a brilliant team to be coming to Tynecastle, and you're at a crunch stage of the group stages as well, so nothing's written off yet. It's everything still to play for. I think it's going to be a really exciting night.
Hopefully all Scottish teams can get a good result, and we can keep on dreaming about someone being involved in European football after Christmas. That would be class. All right, just before we leave, worth a mention of the Euro 2024 draw on the 9th of October. That's this Sunday coming. And also good luck to the Scotland women's team, who play on Thursday night. They've got the World Cup playoff match against Austria. And if they win that, I think they go to play Republic of Ireland with the chance to get to the World Cup. That would be amazing for our girls in blue. That's all from us. Thank you for listening. Thanks, Laura and Finn. Next week we'll definitely have nice headlines to do properly. Thanks as well to Des Roache from the Get Involved Referee podcast. Give it a listen, because it's really, really interesting. Gives a proper referee's insight. We'll be back next Tuesday. Until then, cheerio.